Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series.
Because creators are businesses.
What we do is not simple.
Give, the fans everything that they deserve.
Being creative
is like doing a 5,000 piece puzzle.
is something that you can learn and do over and over again.
Always be as authentic as I can be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am so excited today to have Miss Amy Kemp here with me. Amy is a strategic business leader, passionate people developer. She's the author of ICU, a guide for women to make more, have more, and be more without more work. Amy, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. I want to get into this and really dive into your entrepreneurial journey. And you've built this business that centers around personal transformation. What was the spark that led you to launch Amy Kemp?
Oh, I wish it was some inspiring story that was like a well thought out plan, but it was quite an accident, actually. I was in a leadership position, leading a team of about 1,000 people in sales over a period of decades, so over 20 years in one particular industry, when I found myself having a lot of conversations with women who I just knew personally, not through my work, but just personally. And these were women who maybe were leading organizations or owned businesses or were in some capacity women of influence.
Yeah.
And they were all talking to me about just the experience of being very isolated, being very exhausted, being very overwhelmed. And I could not, everywhere I went, I kept on like hearing, I would listen to a podcast and then I would, watch a TV show and then I would have lunch with a friend. And the message was, you need to get these women together. There's something for you to do here.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, I was very resistant. I did not have the capacity. At that time, so this was about 9 years ago, my kids were in the Uber era of parenting where I was driving them everywhere. No one could drive and everyone was in things, what I call it. And it was just a really intense personal season as well. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. I don't even have time to do the life I have, much less start something new.
Yeah.
So, all that to say, I was speaking at an event in Salt Lake City. I had worked with a business coach who used this tool called the Habit Finder. It is an assessment tool that measures the subconscious habits of thinking that are happening in your brain.
Yep.
When I worked with him, my business quadrupled in size. It was transformational personally and professionally, and we had stayed in touch for all the years.
Yeah.
Well, he lives out there, so I said, hey, I'd love to see you when I'm out there. He picked me up from the airport. We had dinner. And while we were having dinner, I told him, all these women keep talking to me. Like, kind of like, oh, And he said, well, I think you need to take action. And so that was a Thursday night. He said, on Monday, we're starting a training for people who want to use the Habit Finder assessment. So kind of a new cohort, so to speak, of this extensive training program. And he said, I think you should do it. And I will tell you, Danielle, I had not ever considered doing that.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
like researching it. I wasn't thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I want to be a business coach. I was like, what? Monday? It's Thursday,
Yeah.
But at the same time, when something chases you down, sometimes you just surrender and say, okay, you caught me, I guess.
Yeah.
So I went home and talked it over with my husband. He said, every time we've invested in you, it's been worth it. I think you need to take action on this. And so I started on Monday, which is so crazy. And the business, well, first of all, I didn't think I was even starting a business then, but the business grew way faster than I expected. And currently I use that tool with small groups of women. And then one-on-one, I work with both men and women in a one-on-one capacity using this tool and the curriculum that goes along with it.
Okay. I want to go into the habits that you were talking about and that you kind of the subconscious. What were some of the habits that you personally had to unlearn while building your company?
Yeah. So I think the main work that I continue to do, because I never want this work to feel like it's finished, it's a daily walk for me still.
Yeah.
One of my high risks, I'm deeply empathetic. I used to think I was an introvert, but I'm actually not. I just feel people intensely.
Okay.
And so I need to really monitor how much I'm absorbing their experience
Yeah.
and how much I'm feeling it. When I was leading people, I found it very, very, very difficult, and I felt very responsible when people didn't
Yeah.
succeed. I I carried their lack of progress or lack of growth or their frustration or their experience so heavily that I didn't want to lead any more people.
Okay.
It was too exhausting. And at one point I said, I don't want to lead people. I don't want to do this. It's too much. Like I couldn't separate. I'll give you one really interesting, and I actually write about this in my book, but I still use this technique now when I'm
Yeah.
working with people. And I learned it from a massage therapist of all
Okay.
people because they tend to absorb people's energy.
Yes.
They're in a very like intimate space with
Yeah.
people and they're physically touching them. So there's like a transfer. And so if you can imagine when I walk into a conversation with a client, let's say, I imagine that we have this beautiful collection of ribbons, all different colors. And in our conversation, we're kind of weaving those ribbons
Yeah.
together. I'm asking and pulling and crossing and,
Yeah.
creating a beautiful pattern of connection with that person. But at the end, I will actually physically hold up my hands like scissors, like when you play rock, paper,
Yeah.
scissors. And when I hang up, I will actually do that motion of the scissors cutting
Yeah.
and say out loud, what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours.
Okay.
And just sort of let it go. But that's a subconscious habit of thinking to like take on someone's stuff that I wasn't aware I was doing it, but it was dragging me down.
Yeah.
Another one that's really common, and I work with clients on this a lot, is that I have a brain that's very vivid and active.
Okay.
So we call this being, well, there's a couple different measurements that we use, but one of them is obsessive. I am an obsessive thinker.
Okay.
I think and think and think and think and think and
Yeah.
think, and then I think and think, and then I'm thinking about how much I'm thinking. I mean, I'm just always thinking. Oh, and sometimes it's just exhausting
Yeah.
to be in my head. Well, there are some risks with that. One of them is that people who are obsessive thinkers, which by the way, about 98% of entrepreneurs have this habit of thinking,
Yeah.
we tend to get very attached to our ideas
Mm.
because we have thought about them for so long. So we get very attached to how we think something should be done. And especially when working with other people, we have a tendency to plow over people or
Yeah.
not really listen to their feedback, or they just stop giving it because they know you're just going to do it your way anyhow.
Yeah.
Um, we also have a very strong need to be right, even about the silliest things,
Yeah.
just very simple things.
Yeah.
How the forks are put into the silverware
Yeah.
drawer. We just get really like, "Grr."
Yeah.
It's very physical, even the
Yeah.
feeling. There's a client I worked with in my spring groups, and she was like, "Oh, I don't do that. I don't really do that." But her measurement said she did. Well, then she got on our next call. She said, "Well, turns out we're having a party, and my husband put the salad in the blue bowl instead of the orange bowl." And she was like, I felt like a grizzly bear reared up inside of me, like, no, that's the wrong bowl. I mean, you can laugh, but like in business settings and in life,
100%.
it can be really damaging to
Yeah.
be very strongly attached to a need to be right, especially about things where sometimes it's just like, does it matter?
Yeah.
Really? Does it matter?
Yep.
So I've just learned um, a lot about that habit of thinking and how to prevent myself
Yeah.
from getting into those deep ruts where I can't get myself out. A lot of practices that help me stay unattached and not so like rigid with things.
Now, when you were starting and going off and doing Amy Kemp and doing
Mm,
building your business, is there something you valued when you were starting out that you don't value anymore?
mm, that's a really great question. I wouldn't say I don't value it.
Yeah.
I would say certain things became more important.
Okay.
Um, and that was over a period of years.
Yeah.
I think I had to become very okay with being misunderstood.
Mm.
So the transition from one space where you're in a leadership role that's very public
Yeah.
and very sort of like famous in that world, out of that role, especially when you're kind of at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
One, I wasn't clear enough or ready enough in that transition to explain it.
Mm.
It's sort of like I had this little tiny baby and I just needed to protect it. And I wasn't quite ready to like put it out into the world and like explain it to everyone. So I was just moving forward, creating a new thing kind of privately and quietly.
Yeah.
But along the way, I mean, I think a lot of people had a lot of experiences with my choices around that. And I had to be okay with just them having that experience and them telling their version of the story, even if it was sort of casting me in a negative light. It's really interesting because now, like 8 years later, I've had so many people, even in the last year, say to me, like apologize and say, I was so judgmental and critical. And now that I've like read your book and I'm understanding where you were and what was happening, I just see it from a totally different perspective. I just didn't know. And so I went real negative. Now, I didn't know they were doing that. So my feelings weren't really hurt. Like they were having that experience on their own. But I really just had to be okay with people telling whatever story they were telling
Yeah.
because I wasn't ready to tell the story yet. It was an important shift. It was
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah.
I had to really limit the number of people that I was talking to about what I was doing in that transition also.
Okay.
Kind of similar. I always tell people this when you're starting something new, and a lot of times my clients will tell me, like, I'm the first person that they share. I have this idea that I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
or I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to create a new business, or I'm going to create a new offering for my business. When that idea is new, it is sort of like a newborn baby. You don't just take it out and
100%.
pass it around to everyone and ask what they think. I mean, you kind of stay home a little bit
Yeah.
more,
Yep.
you're not like just sharing it with the world. It's
Yeah.
still sort of fragile and new. And so I really take that as like a sacred space where, just being really kind of like a safe harbor for those ideas to sort of germinate and take
Yeah.
root and kind of grow before you start bringing it out into the public at all. And I had to do a lot of that just real, like I was talking to one or two people about what I was doing, and that's it, because everybody else had a lot of opinions about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I just had to be quiet.
I love that. For
Mhm.
those who have never heard the term of thought habits,
Mm.
how would you explain this to them and why are they so powerful?
I love this. Habits we think are, and there are external habits. What time do you wake up is a habit. And, I have a bad Starbucks refresher habit. Like, I mean, there are habits of things
Yeah.
that you do, right? Um, this is different. our brains are hardwired to survive. And so when we do something that helps us survive, our brain creates a groove so that we don't use a lot of energy to kind of repeat that same pattern that helped us survive. And that's kind of how we have continued to live and, procreate and create other human beings and carry on. The problem is these grooves, these habits of thinking that are some of them really deep because we've been riding that groove for so long
Yeah.
without even knowing it consciously can no longer be needed or become disruptive to a new era, like a new phase of creation,
Yeah.
or they can run in resistance to creation. So, for example, this is a really simple example, but when someone starts a business or a new company, a lot of times there's a groove that's created that's like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll work as long as it takes.
Yeah.
I'm available to everyone because I got to get this thing off the ground, and there's this groove of like hard work, do whatever it takes,
Hustle.
always say yes, right? If you stay in that groove past the point of needing it, where the business is now launched,
Yeah.
but you are still available to everyone at all hours of the day. You are still working 80 hours a week. You will eventually crash and burn. So, in another way of putting it, it's like when an airplane leaves the ground, right? It takes a huge amount of fuel to get it
Yes.
off the ground. If you keep burning that level of fuel, you will crash and burn that airplane once you're at cruising altitude.
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing with a lot of our patterns of thinking, our habits of thinking, is that they served us at one point. They were there to help us survive, but they are no longer serving us. We don't need them anymore. So now they're creating resistance to our progress.
I like the plane analogy. That really
Mm.
it makes it sometimes those analogies just make it hit harder at home. So I like that you have that analogy with that.
Yeah, in that moment of like, okay, this fuel is what got me off the ground, and now you're telling me I'm gonna just cut it way
Yeah.
back. I
You're
mean,
like, it's going
that
down.
runs, yeah, that's like terrifying. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing a lot of entrepreneurs experience in that moment of like, all right, I've got to have some boundaries with this work and with my contributions to it.
Absolutely. And you've worked with 300 women through your Encounter program. Are there some common unhealthy thought patterns that you've seen in leaders that is just identifiable?
A lot, but I would say a lot are operating with this habit of thinking that we call obligation.
Okay.
So that looks like have to, need to, should. I
Ooh.
have to write this report. I need to get ready for this meeting. I
Yeah.
really should go to the gym. I have to, and this energy of obligation, when you are creating something and leading something, um, so imagine like the process of leadership, let's say, is a little bit like climbing a mountain. It takes a level of energy just to
Yeah.
climb the mountain. This habit of thinking is like strapping on a 100-pound backpack and
Mm.
climbing the same mountain. It's a draining,
Yeah.
it's just it almost physically, when I say it, my shoulders
Totally.
hunch, you lean
Yeah.
forward. It's just heavy. The other thing is this habit of thinking is pervasive. So once you notice it, you'll start hearing yourself say, oh, I need to take out the garbage. Oh, I should really make something good for dinner tonight. Oh, and it just
Yeah.
becomes in all areas of your life. I have to get a birthday gift for my mom.
Yeah.
It's just like the habit becomes all across the board, and you don't have a lot of energy to
Yeah.
spare, and you're there just tossing it out the window in addition with this habit. So I think that the challenge of some of these habits is we don't recognize that they're happening. But
Yeah.
once I point it out to you or we see it on your assessment and you start to just observe yourself, it's like, oh, there it is
Here
again.
it is.
There it is again. There it is again. And so that's a really common one I see.
Can you walk us through how someone actually changes a thought habit? Like, what does that process look like?
It's slow.
Mm.
I wish I could tell you like, oh, I've got the magic formula.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo.
I know it's so slow and it's so tiny. Um, there are a few things like that habit of thinking, just as an example, we work with some very specific replacement tools. So one of the things that we'll do is sort of like a chopping motion with one hand to the other, where when you hear yourself say it, you hit your hands together and you say stop, and then you replace it with I choose to, or I get to, or I want to.
Yeah,
And you just I get to go to the gym.
yeah,
I choose to, do the dishes.
yeah.
I want to create a report that's going to create a new client for my company or whatever. So some physical movement can disrupt a subconscious habit of thinking. Talking out loud to yourself can also disrupt habits of thinking that are subconscious, where you actually say out loud, I choose to, I want to, I get to, right? Um, Also, interestingly, music can disrupt subconscious habits of thinking and bring them to the surface or kind of shake you out of them. But overall, it's this process of kind of observing yourself and paying attention and then recognizing it when it happens. It doesn't mean that it doesn't still happen. It means you can catch it faster and then kind of choose the different thought, create the new groove.
I like that. I like the chopping motion too, because even
Mm,
I've gotten into the habit of it's not I need to go to the gym, is I want to go to the gym.
mhm. Yeah,
I've gotten into those habits as well and doing that rethinking myself because I started realizing like those are negative contexts that I'm putting with some phrases that they don't need to be negative.
totally. This is interesting. A lot of entrepreneurs in particular do this because they have a tendency to resist rules, obligations. They resist someone telling them what to do. That's kind of what makes you bend toward entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
You don't want someone to tell you to mandate that you have to do something. You will resist that just by nature when you have kind of an entrepreneurial
Yes.
mindset. The problem is then you become your own boss,
Yeah.
and then you say, here's your to-do list that you have to do today, which mine's sitting here as well. And then you resist your own leadership.
Yeah.
I don't have to. You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I like freedom and choices. I mean, there's all of this, like, we resist the very thing that would benefit us because of that habit of thinking that is resistant to someone telling us what to do.
I
Same
want to,
with the gym, right? Because you're
yes.
your own boss saying
Yes.
you have to go to the gym. Nope, not
Nope,
doing it.
I don't have to. I don't have to
Right.
do anything.
Totally.
I want to get into this incredible book that you've written, the
Mm.
ICU. Writing a book is no small feat. It's not an easy task to do. What made you decide to take the leap to write this book, and what was that process for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've wanted to do my whole life. And when people ask me, how long did it take you to write it? And I say like 25 years. I've really been working with the content of the book for that long.
Mm.
And a lot of it I have been teaching from stages or using in coaching clients for years. That being said, I will be candid that part of the reason I wrote it when I did is that my kids are finally old enough that I have enough time. I
Yeah.
mean, I just really was in the thick of getting these tiny humans to be very, very, very tall humans, and it took a lot of energy. And I did work full time, but I didn't have the capacity for these sort of more creative pursuits
Okay.
that took a lot of time, like writing the book.
Yeah.
I also was so privileged. I worked with a writing coach. Her name is AJ Harper, and she has a top three book workshop that is she really believes that you don't write books about things, but you write them for people.
Yep.
And that the goal in writing a book is always in service of your reader. So I created this book to really be sort of like a place where someone who might not be sure or ready to engage with me in my other offerings
Yeah.
could sort of walk in at a really low barrier, look around, see if they like what they see, I call it
Yeah.
the foyer of my business. But also, just for some people, when financially it's not feasible for you to hire that coach, or I wanted to have an offering that gave everyone access to the work I do. So I really wrote it for my people, really. And I will tell you, at times when the writing or when the negative voices in my own head got loud and noisy, if I closed my eyes, I could see my people. I know my people. Like I know what they need and want, and I know them. Like I know my people. And even when I'm speaking somewhere, I can kind of scan the crowd and I can like see them. And I know, like I can feel them. I
Yeah.
know who this message is connecting with.
Yeah.
And so the writing was the most vulnerable
Mm.
thing I've ever done. The publishing was even more vulnerable somehow. And then now the promotion, another different kind of
Yeah.
vulnerability. And so it's been a real, I would say I have evolved as a person through that creative process so much.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. And I feel like the book is serving my reader in real
Good.
ways.
Good.
Mhm.
Was
Yeah.
there a chapter in this book that was the hardest to write for you, but was the most important to include?
Yeah. Chapter 10, for sure. And it is the title of the chapter is Surrender to Structure.
Mm.
The reason this was so hard for me to write is that I share a really vulnerable story about a season in my life of business building and entrepreneurship where publicly it looked like I was succeeding and like
Mm.
at the top of my game.
Yeah.
And at the same time, due to some structural things that were happening, and then just like a shift in the market and in what was happening, it's kind of difficult to explain.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money to pay our bills.
Got it.
And it was this moment where I got home from this meeting. There were hundreds of people there. I was in charge, I'm the star of the show. And I was at home, like hot gluing googly eyes on something to sell it so that I could like pay my mortgage. And
Yeah.
I'm wearing this like suit that represents that I'm like this bigwig
Yeah.
and I'm crying on the floor in my office. I'm crying, just scared to death. Um, and the telling of that story in a way where I needed to do it in a way that was very honest,
Yeah.
but also careful and and I wanted it to serve my reader. That was probably, and it still to me is the most vulnerable part of the book.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of feedback on it from readers, which is great.
I want to
Mhm.
do a little rapid fire with you, and just first thing that comes to mind, what is a thought habit you're still working on today?
My brain will go from fantasy to catastrophe very
Okay.
quickly. I can be like a best-selling author and 2 seconds later, living in a cardboard box
Yeah.
in my mind. I mean, it's fast and it is powerful. And so I really work to stay in the present moment, to use my imagination to imagine, like, for example, I'm going on a listening tour this fall. It
Yeah.
was something that I received as an inspired idea where I'm just going to be going to different cities. I had zero interest in doing a book tour, but I am deeply fascinated in the experience of women right now. I'm going to be going to different cities where I have these hosts gathering 20 women in a room. I just want to hear where they are, right? That's an inspired idea. We're going to be talking about the themes in my book, but more, I want to hear from them. I'm so tired of hearing myself talk. But I'm endlessly interested in what everyone
Yeah.
else has to say. Well, that's an inspired idea, right?
Yeah.
So I can use my imagination to create things like that and then come back and put it into motion, like really make it
Yep.
happen, right? Instead of just going off into these fantasies of like what I'm going to do and then never taking action on it, or going to the worst case scenario, particularly in a world that's changing so fast
Yeah.
right now. And really, like, I can get wrapped up in like AI. My brain just starts to like spin
Yeah.
in circles because I'm using it, but I'm also concerned about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and so just, okay, yes, that's a possibility. Of course, there could be negative things that happen, but come back to today and be where my feet are and do the work that's on my list today and serve the person that's in front of me today.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a habit of thinking. I manage it by the minute a lot of
I
times.
don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. How do you stay grounded while running a purpose-driven business?
I make sure I have lots of guilt-free playtime.
Okay.
I cannot work 10-hour days. It
Yeah.
is bad for everyone. I'm too fast. I get going too fast. So it for me, it's about really more than monitoring what I'm doing in the work time because I'm really good at that and very efficient and effective. For me, it's more about making sure that I have time to give my brain a break, a lot of time out with my flowers. I play a lot of pickleball. I have a
There you
lot of
go.
friend time, just a lot of, like a lot of family time.
Yeah.
I've got to make sure for me to be at my best that my brain gets a break.
What's something that's surprising about working with you as a coach?
Oh, I know. I never know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I know that when people hire me and engage in this work I do, whatever is most in opposition to their expansion
Yeah.
is going to rear its ugly head fiercely. I mean, it's never like, oh, I wonder what it is. It's like, oh, here it is, And that could be
Yeah.
a relationship in your life that needs to be renegotiated or ended. It
Yeah.
could be a habit that is coming up. Sometimes things come up like addiction or,
Yeah.
right? But whatever it is that is most in opposition to your growth and expansion, if you want to know what that is, and I always think I should come with a warning label because sometimes it's like, whoa, that's not what I thought it
Yep.
was going to be. Like I
Yeah.
have a lot of people wanting to grow their businesses to the next level. And then they're like, I'm in a toxic marriage
Yeah.
and it is absolutely sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You can't take that business to the next level when you're in constant energy that's in opposition to that. So we got to deal with what is.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's surprising, I think, for me is I don't ever know what it is,
Yep.
but I know it will show up. I
Yep.
know we will discover it.
My last one, Amy, is just it's a fill in the blank. The most
Mm.
powerful shift a leader can make is.
Self-awareness.
Mm.
And I don't think you can do that alone.
Yeah.
Think we're designed to live in community, and I don't think we see ourselves very clearly. I
Yeah.
think you need people who are able to be really accurate with you and
Yep.
clear with you.
Yep.
So the self-awareness isn't by sitting at home by yourself. You
Yeah.
gain self-awareness by putting yourself into a relationship with someone who can really be accurate with you
Like
and
that.
really help you to see your blind spots.
I value so much when somebody looks at me and says, "Hey, you missed this. You missed it." It's important. It's incredibly important because you're not able to succeed without people being around you and calling you out on things.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to follow any leader who doesn't have a space like that. Not with people who have and you can't do it with someone who's your boss or who is you are a boss of, and you can't do it with a spouse.
Yeah.
There has to be a neutral party that you have in your world that is able to give you that kind of space where you can really begin to see yourself differently and
Absolutely.
clearly.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Amy Kemp, I can't thank you enough for joining me today and walking me through all this. I'm so excited to dig into your world, and I so appreciate it.
Thanks, Danielle. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you guys, I'm going to have Amy's book linked down below as well as her socials. Please go give her a follow, grab a copy of her book. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.